All right. We're going to get started very soon. Just bear with me. Eddie,
Hey,
how's it
Brian.
going?
How you doing, bud?
Great. You look good. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Let me straighten out my camera just a little bit.
Yeah, awesome. We're gonna wait a minute or two. Everybody's kind of filing in right now. Hope everybody's doing well. Friday nights don't normally do things on Friday nights or Saturday nights, but I've been doing webinars on these evenings because a lot of us are stuck at home. And what else are we gonna do on a Friday night or a Saturday night? We're not gonna go out to eat. We're gonna spend some time with our family, but I think a lot of us have spent a lot of time with our families. So maybe a Friday night reprieve, hopefully for us. Some of you, Eddie, what have you been doing during this quarantine time?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm like the busiest guy you ever seen. I've been on. This is my fourth Zoom meeting today,
It's my third.
and I'm averaging about 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah. And that's the world we live in right now, right? There's really no other way to do it.
Well, and when I'm saying that, I'm talking a lot about now. This one of the Zoom meetings I was just attending, but the rest of them I'm talking because I'm talking about what's happening. And creative finance, people have figured out, is a thing all of a sudden. So it's all good. So you've grown in your little beard there.
I'm on a little quarantine growing beard here over the past month or so, but yeah, we're trying out something new. Got a little workout regimen going and just trying something new. So
good for you.
What do you before I kind of turn things over to you, still waiting probably another minute or two while people still file in. What obviously I think a lot of people, at least that have been in real estate for any period of time, understand why creative finance might be coming back, is probably coming back. But as far as you're probably concerned, you would say it's always been here. It's just going to be more pronounced. What are you seeing and hearing? Because you talk to a lot of people all over the country. What are you, and you experience it because you're doing deals. What are you seeing right now in the market nationwide?
Well, right now, we're trying to, I think pretty much any real estate investor at the moment, for the most part, is going to be affected by creative finance. Either you're buying a property and you're getting a hard money loan, or if you're wholesaling a property, somebody else is getting a hard money loan. Well, I can tell you right now that loan to value has been sawed off 15 to 25%, right? So are you just going to pay 15 or 25% more cash down, or is the guy you're wholesaling to, is he going to do that? Or are you going to get the seller to finance the second? And if you're going to do that, what terms are you going to negotiate? Mm-hmm. So I would say that the instance of creative financing has probably gone tenfold in the last 3 weeks.
Really?
So that's what, as you know, I'm in Collective Genius, and I just did a webinar with Kent this afternoon, boardroom, and I was on one with Mike Hambright 2 days ago with Investor Fuel. There's you 300 of the top guys in the business between those three. Mm-hmm. 300 of the top real estate investors in the business. That's what they're all telling me. So I don't know what your audience says or what would be different, but I just think it's that prevalent. What I'm trying to make people aware of right now is it's not just that look, every title company or every real estate lawyer thinks they can tell you how to do seller financing. And true enough, they probably could tell you the mechanics of how to write a note, and how to write a deed of trust. The issue is what you're negotiating for, with like, what are the terms? So I'm trying to like get everybody prepared of like knowing what this is.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, Brian, and what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to go through, what if scenario that people have never really considered. And because as you said, most real estate investors for the last many years never really saw creative financing as really a necessity. And probably, the truth be told, it probably wasn't their necessity. They could have made more money if they would have done it.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't do it.
Because it's hard. There are more moving pieces to it. It's hard. When I say it's hard, it's outside of what is being talked about on a consistent basis. It's not the norm. It's not the mainstream. So therefore it's like, oh, that's that little thing that's out there. There's so much to it, so many working components to it. You do it so many different ways. I'm just going to wholesale. I'm just going to buy a house and flip it.
Well, I think none of us want to learn a new habit until we are forced to learn a new habit.
Right.
I think learning this habit, which I think for most real estate investors is not going to be an option. It's going to be you got to do this.
Yeah.
And then I think once they get used to it and they do it for a little bit, they're going to find out it's not as, quote, complicated as they think it is.
Eddie, when I first got in the business in 2012, there was a lot of and I did a lot of creative financing, and the people that were teaching me, my mentors, it was just a part of the toolbox. I think what's happening right now, wholesaling in particular, has gotten so mainstream that the bar is so low, anyone can do it, that you've got a lot of people in here, and I'm not putting them down. I'm not putting down people that are trying to make a living and trying to better their situation for them and their families. But what has happened is understanding the breadth of what you can do real estate wise takes a huge backseat to, hey, let's just go grab this money while it's here. So I think that these skills are going to, for the average wholesaler in particular, the wholesaler that does want to grow and learn and get better and survive ultimately is going to have to learn these skills. And I think my crowd that is probably, and I haven't looked at who's actually in here right now, but my crowd for the most part tends to lean more wholesale. So with all that being said, I want to kind of turn the floor over to you. I want to welcome everyone, because I haven't done that formally. Welcome to Friday night webinar with Mr. Eddie Speed. Eddie came to Birmingham and spent a few days with us a couple of times, 2 different times. And it's just, guys, the information that you get from a man who has been doing this business, the creative side of this, all of the business, but the creative side in particular for 40 plus years, it's invaluable. And his wife and his father-in-law, who he kind of learned this stuff from, he learned it from the people that really knew what they were doing. And now obviously Eddie is now the go-to guy in this business throughout the nation. He just got done listing the 3 biggest, most well-known masterminds in the entire country for real estate investors. And he was the featured speaker at all 3 of them. So that goes to show you the kind of pedestal that people put Eddie on, and deservedly so. So with all that being said, Eddie, I'm turning the floor over to you. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to take notes, and I can't wait for what's in store for the rest of the evening.
Well, I'm excited about it. And let's see, I want to make sure you can see my screen. You got that?
Do not have your screen yet.
All right. Well, hold on a minute. Let me dig around here.
I know you know how to work Zoom.
Screen share. That's kind of weird.
Well, Eddie, while you're working with that, there you go. Never mind.
I got it.
There you go.
Okay. Well, the bad news, I turned my PowerPoint off when I did that, but I'll get it back soon enough.
I'll be monitoring, Eddie, by the way, I'll be monitoring Q&A and chat and things like that. And I might chime in every once in a while with a question for you.
Please. All right. So as Brian said, I came over got the pleasure of speaking to their group over in Birmingham. And actually we had a class in Birmingham. and just was a great time. And obviously it's great to see you guys, and it's always interesting to hear your stories. And so as Brian said, a lot of you guys, or his estimate is a lot of you guys are sort of wholesalers in the business. And I did start at a very young age. I started at 20 years old. So I know what it's like when you start out on a path, and then life takes you in a different direction. So we're going to talk about tonight how I think you can kind of embrace this and how you can kind of position yourself. And so I named this presentation Buying Property with Monopoly Money, which is kind of funny because who wouldn't love to go open up the Monopoly box and get some Monopoly money out and go buy a piece of property? So the idea here is this. I'm going to show you ways to take the sharp edge off of how you buy property, because I'm going to show you how to find money that you can pay later. And it's so favorable. It's almost like buying it with Monopoly money. So that's the concept of it. So I guess I'm just like everybody else. You know, I'm quarantined up. There's my wife, Martha. And look at the dog there. He's afraid he's next. I feel like at this point I've got the preacher hairdo. You know what I'm saying, Brian? And, you know, Brian, I got to tell you, I woke up and Martha's been gardening while I've been napping, and I just probably need to see what's going on sometimes, you know. But no, I have been in the space a long time, and I'm honored to have won some awards along the way. And I would tell you that one of the most important award is the one I just clicked up there, and it's not because of me. Given this reward really as a figurehead for Note School, because Note School has given more than $500,000 to that charity. It's a child welfare board. So these are kids that end up in foster care and can't take care of themselves. And here's what I believe. I believe that if I can help you learn to develop financial models that just allow you to life to be financially way bigger than you could dream, I hope I inspire you to be a go-giver. And I believe that we've had a lot of go-givers in Note School. And Brian, you know, I kind of come from that culture and some of the pals that you hang out with and stuff, and I feel very influenced by that. So I put this up today because I think this is the most relevant to our conversation. Because I started in this business in 1980, and in 1980, when I started in this business, interest rates were 20%. I got started in the business, as you heard Brian say, from my father-in-law. At that time, Martha and I weren't married. And so he taught me essentially how to go out and essentially be a bird dog and go chase seller finance notes. So here I would walk into a realtor's office or a home builder's office, all of which were creating seller financing rapidly, like they're going to be in the next 6 months, because they had to. Traditional mortgages weren't affordable, so they would take over the existing mortgage, and the seller would carry a second lien. And now think about this. I'm walking into their office, and I've been doing this like 4 months, and I'm walking into their office, and they've been doing it like 14 years or 24 years or 44 years. Who had the advantage, me or them? Let me tell you what really happened. When I went into their office, they were scared to death, and I had a solution. They should have had the advantage. They should have figured out what I was doing and switched over and did things like that. Instead, they were stuck in their mindset, and they couldn't reinvent themselves. I never have forgotten that life lesson, because that is where we are today. The guy that can reinvent himself is going to kill it. The virus is what it is. None of us caused the virus. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible economic effect of it. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? You're going to roll over? You're going to just listen to CNN and decide, I'm done, I'm washed up? Are you going to get up and say, look, there's an opportunity, and I have a chance as an entrepreneur to even go help a seller that otherwise couldn't sell their property and help somebody else buy a property with owner financing. And all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of a good thing that can be very good to me. And that's my challenge for you tonight. 1986 was the Southwest banking debacle, where they later formed the entity called the Resolution Trust Corporation, the RTC. More defaulted loans were sold to private investors in that era than ever had been in the history of America. Then the securitization stopped in 1998. And then in 2001, the terrible deal, right? The 9/11 attack. Then the big mama, the big mother lode, 2008 mortgage meltdown. Today, coronavirus. So if you had lived through all of that, it's like the old Jamie Johnson country song, Color. If you think these old black and white pictures are something, you should have seen it in color. If you've ever heard that country song. Well, let me just tell you something. I have seen it in color. I'm not saying there's not things that I'm not concerned about. What I'm saying to you, I've been to this party before, right? And I'm going to tell you that, first of all, my net worth changed more on post those dates than ever have any other characteristic of my financial future. It is because of the disruption in the market that allowed the need for specialized knowledge. And secondly, Brian and hundreds of my best real estate buddies have said to me, Eddie, how do you figure this crazy stuff out? Brian has just said that to me before. Where in the world did you figure out how to structure this? You know when I figured it out, Brian? Post 1986, post 2001, that's when I figured out how to do this.
Because you were forced to.
You couldn't survive. If you couldn't buy property with monopoly money, you couldn't buy it because there wasn't any cash. So this is a very, very, very relevant thing that I'm saying to you guys tonight. If you think real estate is not going to change, I don't really know what to say to you. And I'm not trying to scare you. Trust me, I'm really not. I'm just telling you, if you think there's no change in real estate whatsoever, that doesn't match what the guys that I've just told you, the top 300 guys in the business are all telling me. It just doesn't match. For one thing, traditional mortgage lending is headed for not the right direction. And I could get into a long debate about why that's true. And you can say, no, I've read the headlines and, there's a lot of, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and FHA hasn't really changed their criteria that much. Well, let me just tell you this. When a lender gives it to you, or when you read the headline, it says Fannie Mae guidelines or FHA guidelines. You know what that word guidelines means? That means that's the minimum standard a lender can require. It's not a requirement that they allow those standards. And right now, mortgage banking is in a mess because the people they borrow money from called warehouse facilities, where they borrow the money to make a loan, that situation is in a turmoil. Now, I'm not trying to black swan you. I'm trying to say opportunity. It's a factual statement. You can do your Google research. You're going to find out that I'm absolutely correct. This is going to produce an opportunity for seller financing to re-enter the market. And we'll talk about hard money lending here in a minute, clearly affected by this. So what I'm trying to say is we can't change the market. We can react to the changes. So I named the presentation, Buying Property with Monopoly Money. Wouldn't you love to just not need dollars and just reach over and get monopoly money and have a deal? So we're going to talk about why that's possible. So think with me for a minute, right? Imagine this. Imagine a home builder without mortgage financing. Imagine car dealership without auto financing. Can you imagine your real estate investing business now, not a year ago, but now without creative financing? So I'll make 3 promises to you. You can do deals that other investors pass on. That I will assure you. Secondly, you can make money today and long-term cash as a bonus. So it's not money, it's not just money tomorrow, it's money today. And this will work anywhere. It will work and I got case studies from California to Washington State to Alabama to South Carolina to Kansas to, you can't name me a state we don't have case. Right now, this market condition, while worse seemingly on the East Coast, is a national market condition. So, who do you want to be? This guy or this guy? And somehow, Brian, the press is putting us in that position, right? You want to be grumpy and listen to naysayers, or you want to be happy and create legacy? You see, I entered into this market 40 years ago. People thought it was the black swan they couldn't get away from. I've lived through all of these cycles, and I've learned that for our business, traditional real estate is listed and sold through a realtor. They don't need us. When does a real estate investor come to the rescue? When you have a piece of property or a seller situation or a market situation that the traditional vein of selling houses and properties, it doesn't fit. That's the only reason our significance in the market exists. Because otherwise, they don't need us. They'll just go list it with a realtor and sell it at retail and get conventional financing. And guess what? None of us would get to know each other. You see, we solve problems other people don't solve. Now, I've learned this over the years. If you're an entrepreneur, you'll have friends that love you, but yet they distract you from being effective because they don't understand your downplay, right? You're going to be around people right now that, just like Eddie Speed, I sort of have to hold my hand over my ear. I love them, but they don't get where I'm going. Or they're too focused on listening to bad news, right? We're not ignoring the elephant in the middle of the room. I'm not saying that. And what I'm saying is, you can be the guy on the left or the guy on the right, and this market definitely draws the picture you want to be. So the elephant in the middle of the room clearly is the virus. It's easier to buy and it's harder to sell. So let's go back to the idea of conventional wholesaling a property, right? You have price, and it's essentially buy low, sell high, and you have terms. It means you could buy it with monopoly money. Terms is you pay cash, the property's worth 100, you pay 75, and that means you discount it $25,000. You got to have somebody standing still with cash to buy that, and you have to have somebody standing still willing to accept that price. But terms is where you can pay for some or all of their equity over time. But I will tell you, in 40 years of being in this business, there are financing terms that a bank would never agree to. The seller would carry terms for you that a bank would just laugh at you, or a hard money lender would laugh at you. You know how to ask for it, what you're asking for. So where will this work? It'll work on free and clear property. It'll work on that's partly leveraged, and it'll work on property that's so highly leveraged a wholesaler couldn't even make an offer on it. How you structure the deal, it's got a lot to do with how much equity's in it. So you don't structure the same deal the same way every time. So conceptually, just to get your mind clear, we're saying if somebody had $100,000 in equity in a property, you could pay them out at $10,000 a year for 10 years. They got their 100 grand. They just didn't get it today. That's a good deal. That's not a great deal. I teach people how to make great deals. So if you could stretch that money out and it could be paid back over 20 years, that's a way better deal. And I will say that you could set the payment off and not have a payment due for 2 years. First 2 years are free, and then your payments start. Like a furniture company. So the idea is, the pattern that I've seen is people are willing to seller finance, and right now they're willing to seller finance excessively. Brian, I'm gonna give you a wild number. They're 10 times more likely to seller finance today than they were 60 days ago. And they will allow you, the seller of the property, who's going to be your bank, will allow you, the buyer, to dictate the terms. 40 years experience saying that. So I just wanted to give you some kind of stats. Sometimes people don't, when people say soft terms or the seller's willing to carry stuff, you have no sense of what that looks like. We took almost $100 million worth of loans, which is about 3 months worth of us pricing loans, just one-off loans in our trade desk, right? The loan sizes ranged all over the place. So they were $25,000 to $1.2 million. Price range is not really a factor with terms. Secondly, the overall interest rate on all these seller finance notes was 4.5%. So they don't charge, like, I know real estate investors charge 8 or 10% interest sometimes. Mom and pops at seller finance, they don't do that. In fact, truth be told, 1/3 of all of these almost $100 million worth of loans were written at 3% to zero, right? Less than 3% interest. 15% of them were written at 0% interest. Now, I got a lot to say about how to negotiate and position that to negotiate for a lower rate, but I'm going to tell you with confidence, take somebody to a 3-day class, and when they leave there, they're going to have a lot of clarity about what that looks like and why that looks that way. I don't know that I can explain all of those concepts in an hour and a half, but I'll say that you can hide the rate in a deal. I'm going to show you a case study today that shows you a concept of that. You can hide the rate in a deal. The down payments were another thing. People think, oh, God, I couldn't buy property with seller financing. They want a gigantic down. Of almost $100 million worth of loans, 1/3 of those loans were $0 to $5,000 down. I can show you how to give them a down payment at closing, but it's not going to be your money. What I will say in conclusion of this kind of waterfall of facts is that they're always willing to agree to terms that a bank never would. Now, that's me speaking at Collective Genius. 150 guys. If you're deep around the space like Brian, you all know that that's a deep crowd, right? That's me speaking at Mike Hambright's Investor Fuel. He's speaking at Kent Clothier's boardroom, right? In fact, I was on a call with Kent today. Now, that wasn't me on standing next to Kent today, but that was me on a call with Kent today. His family's the guys that own Memphis Invest, right? But they've got years and years of experience. This is why I've been called in with those guys, is because I help them solve a problem. What problem do I help them solve? What's called creative financing.
Eddie, can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
Are you using a microphone? Because you're cutting out a little bit.
I am.
Maybe batteries or something like that.
Man, I don't know. It's really not good?
It's good, and then it just cuts out every 10 seconds. I'm afraid it's going to get worse, but keep going.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have someone else there that might be able to grab you some batteries.
No, I mean, I'm hardwired, and that's why I'm sorry. Let me know and let me see.
I think we're okay. I think we're going to be okay. It's just every 10 seconds, a couple words get get left out.
Hold on a minute.
Okay. By the way, while Eddie's fixing that, guys, please put your questions in the Q&A. The Q&A box is at the very bottom of your screen. Please put, if you have a question, feel free to put your question in at any time at all whatsoever. I'll choose my timing wisely every 3 to 5 minutes. As Eddie takes a breath, I might try to squeeze a question in. So if you do have a question, make sure you get that to Eddie. Some people are saying that nothing is cutting out at all on their end, Eddie. So it may just be me, Eddie, if you can hear me. I've had 2 people say that it's coming in good. Sounds fine here. Everybody else, tell me what you think about the sound. It looks like it might be on my end, Eddie. So I apologize.
Okay. No, I'm sorry because I was just looking for another mic, but we got it.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
So let's stay focused here on this. So why do I help people? What do I help a real estate investor do? I help a real estate investor do creative financing when traditional real estate doesn't solve the problem. So when money's easy, which it has been for the last few years, who cares about creative financing? Now, Brian knows that I've trained some of the top guys in the business to use creative financing even when everybody else didn't know how to do it. There wasn't like a industry drive to go figure this out. Creative financing fills the gap when conventional lending doesn't. And 40 years experience means anything, you can write this one on the wall. Conventional lending as we know it is in for significant changes. So you've got now third-party lending. Money gets scarce, watch it go up. Seller financing fills the gap that conventional lending doesn't. So here is a market condition right now that's a classic example, and that is hard money lending, right? Hard money lending is a bridge loan. It's a bridge loan that allows somebody to buy property for cash, borrow money from a short-term lender, and that's the bridge until they get the property fixed and finished and ready for more permanent financing. That's what it is. They call it hard money because of the rates, but the rates don't really matter as long as it's very short-term. Not really significant. So where have we been in the market? Let's just say, for an example, this is just nice round numbers. Property cost 80 grand. Now, I know you may be in a market that it might cost 380 grand, but just nice round numbers. And you're going to have to spend $20,000 on repairs. You or the guy you're flipping to, or the guy you're wholesaling to, right? Somebody's got to spend the money. So hard money lending traditionally would fund about 90% of that number. Now, I got that number from the members of the mastermind that I'm in, Collective Genius. These guys, Jason Medley said today on a Zoom call, Brian, that they will deliver 20,000 properties a year. So I think I'm getting it from the right source. And then somebody would have to come up with about 10% or $10,000 in cash. So you got a little cash in it, but most of it was covered by the hard money lender. That was pre-virus conditions. Now you have the same property. A hard money lender is down here. And by the way, that number is going down. And I was on a conference call today with 4 of the 6 biggest hard money lenders in the entire United States. All 4 of them said they've dropped their loan to value. And all 4 of them said, yes, we fully understand that we're willing to consider a seller finance second because of the market situation. So
some of them have pulled out altogether, though, haven't they?
Yeah, but I'm saying the ones that's still in the business, all of them have dropped their loan to value. Some of them have pulled out for sure. So if you didn't use creative financing, what happens? You got $100,000 in this deal, or the guy you're wholesaling to, you'd have $25,000 out of your pocket. Well, that gets to sounding not like a deal, right, Brian? And by the way, who are you wholesaling to? Are you wholesaling to a guy with the level of experience of Eddie Speed? Are you wholesaling to a guy with the level of experience of Brian? No. You're wholesaling to what I call an HGTV guy. Right? He doesn't know how to structure this stuff. If you don't figure it out, he's not going to figure it out. And guess what happens when he doesn't figure it out? One of two things. He doesn't either pay as much money or he doesn't buy it all. If you don't solve his problem becomes your problem. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter whether it's, am I right, Brian? This is right down there where the rubber meets the road in this. So when we said earlier, we've all got to learn some of this. We all have to learn it. I want to make you feel comfortable that I have a heart for the fact that just because you haven't been doing this, 40 years and 40,000, I did start out the way some of you started out. I know how that feels, and I have a heart for the fact that you can add this to your business and be insanely successful doing it. So let's talk about, you got a hard money loan, but now, Brian, they're not over the bridge, right? Add seller financing to it and get them over the bridge. So you got the same price, you got the same repairs, you got the same now hard money loan. Boom, do seller financing. By the way, how much cash do you have in it now? You used to have 10,000 in it. You could structure it with not even 10,000. So, Brian, I will tell you that hard money lenders and title companies and closing attorneys and that kind of thing, they're going to start suggesting doing a piggyback second. That's what this is called, a piggyback second. It's been done forever. It was a thing when I started in the business. It was a big thing in subprime lending back in the early 2000s. So believe me, this is an old subject. And I would say there's lots of people that are seasoned in real estate that understand this concept. What I would say to you then is that doesn't necessarily take them to the level of being what I call a deal architect. So I'm going to show you where significant wealth is or significant income is to take it past the ordinary. If you've never seen anybody show you this, that's called a piggyback second. Congratulations, right? But I'll promise you, the person you close with, the title company or a real estate attorney, this is all something they've heard of. Brian would say that pretty much anybody in town that's used to closing real estate investor deals would know about this concept. But you see, I want to take it deeper. Now, look at this picture. When I said seller financing, your brain went to the seller's going to carry your first mortgage. No, the seller is going to subordinate to a first lien. Okay? Now, Brian, most people, even the savviest guys that you and I know, they'd go like, yeah. I did some of the seller financing Eddie Speed talks about. I got them to carry financing so I could get the deal done. They would leave the big money on the table because they would just use a bridge seller finance loan. You see, Brian, when you structure this deal, you can write in the agreement that they're subordinating to future permanent financing. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do a zero interest, zero payment due in 5 years? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And I'm wondering, it's probably difficult to get someone to agree to that pre-COVID-19.
Not today. That's not what people like Frank Cava say. That's not what some of the highest volume guys in the business. No, they would not have agreed to it five months ago, but 5 days ago they will agree to it. Right? What I'm saying is they can either take this or just take another 15 cents less for their property.
Right.
Right? So what I'm saying is that you're in a position now. The necessity to wiggle yourself through deals is different than it was 60 days ago. We'll all agree on that, right? So if that's the case, how do you wiggle yourself through a deal? So here's the math. There's the cost. We've now laid it up there enough times. You should be used to seeing that. That's what the deal cost. The bottom two is how you structure it. Now, on Wall Street, Brian, they call that a capital stack, right? It's just a fancy word to mean how you structure financing on the deal. It's either cash or financing. So the prior criteria was a $90,000 hard money loan and $10,000 cash, and there's your 100. Today, I'm saying you could do this. Hard money loan of 75 less than the 90. Seller finance second for 25, and there's your same 100 grand. But remember, the second lien that they're carrying and the terms that they would agree to, you could make that far more lucrative than just a bridge loan. So let's talk about dictating the terms. First of all, now you have 100% financing with a hard money first and second. No skin in the game. What are people the most concerned about today? Preservation of cash, right? Secondly, you have written into the loan a subordination clause. You could probably underscore that at this point and say you could really write a subordination clause in it. And even when the hard money loan's paid off, they would subordinate to a long-term loan. You could do no interest and no principal, or you could do no interest for 2 years and interest, or no payments for a period of time, or it's your chalk and your chalkboard, right? I would say always try to make it 1 year or more. And I'm going to show you a case study here in a minute where a guy, I just had to get his confidence up. And when he did, he negotiated a loan like this that was 10 years, no interest, no payment. You don't, what they say, you never know how you look till you get your picture took, Brian.
Right.
You would make it assumable and wrappable. So even if you structured the deal, that deal could be structured for the guy you're wholesaling the house to, or any subsequent buyers, right? You're making the deal more valuable because of the way you structured the financing when you acquired it. You don't have to take as deep a discount from your wholesaler. I would say that there's 50 more terms that a bank wouldn't agree to that a seller finance guy will. You say, well, how do you know this, Eddie? You seem so confident. I don't know. I've only looked at like 300,000 or 400,000 seller finance notes. Somewhere along the way, I just figured out what people are willing to do, you know? So there's basically, to dictate the terms, there's the terms of the sale, the terms of the loan, and the terms of the loan docs. And all of those things, trust me, has a tremendous value. So there's 50 plus deal points that would be negotiable. I mentioned this guy a minute ago. I believe that this is probably the most squared away house buyer in the market today. He does about over 300 deals a year. I can tell you from his numbers to his sales process, to his construction process, to his business management, to managing the numbers and his process to the end, that's a squared away guy. And he is one of the executive advisory team for Collective Genius, and a friend of mine. And he says, Eddie, I've in 11 years been listening to you and listening to terms and all the stuff, Brian, just like we've had the conversation about. And Kava says, I make 4 offers that get accepted in the last month on terms, and I've done about 2 or 3 my whole career before then. That's what I'm saying. So I'm listening to guys that are in the trenches. I'm not making up a number. I'm listening to guys that are telling me the result of being in the trenches. Or if you don't propose it, you'll never know if they'll do it. Or if you don't say it in the right way, you'll never know if they'll accept it. So I want to say that I don't expect you to do this without some guidance. So I've got a little get started guide. This isn't a thick thing, but it's a valuable thing. It's 5 steps to dictating the terms to your lender. I make that part of a training. Listen, we have 2 significant case studies yet to do tonight, okay? But I want to be careful that if somebody needs to leave or gets interrupted and they say, Eddie, I've got this and I want to do this, then you can go to this website from now till the end. It doesn't matter. You don't have to wait till the end. You don't have to find out. I don't even know the next steps to go do this with Eddie. So the training is not even remotely close to being over. But you can go to that website. I'm going to give you a significant bonus, which is a software that lets you run all kind of numbers to see where you'd be in a deal. And it's called a Deal Architect software. So look, enough with the big picture, enough with concepts. So I want to get down to where the rubber meets the road. Let's look at a case study. Let's look at a real case study. In fact, I'm going to show you 2 case studies. Okay. So if you've got your pen out, then stay focused with me for a minute. This is a story about a guy in Seattle. Now, let me tell you something. This was a pre-virus situation. So this guy made this deal in the toughest market conditions for a real estate investor known to man. First of all, Seattle was considered the hottest real estate market. At the time he did this, Seattle was considered the most competitive real estate market in the United States. So I see this guy, he'd been a student of mine for years, and I see him at an event. He said, man, I got the greatest news in the world. He said, I'm getting married. And I said, awesome. He said, the only drawback to it is I'm now done good enough in the business. I left my corporate job and now I'm not bankable. And I hate for my wife to live in an apartment or live in a rent house. I said, well, go buy a property. He goes, no, I can't get a mortgage. I'm looking at him. I'm like, Kevin, really? I said, go buy on terms and don't let some bank dictate the terms to you. So he kind of got his chest out a little bit and says, okay, I'll do that. And he did. So he goes out and he does a mail campaign and he starts soliciting properties. Now, this was a duplex. He wasn't necessarily just targeting duplexes, but somebody called and had a duplex. Now, they happen to have owned it free and clear. But Brian, this case study and how he solved a problem would have worked identically the same if he would have just gone out and gotten a traditional mortgage. It doesn't matter whether they seller financed all of it or part of it. What made it the magic was let's just call it the topping on the cake. So this was a duplex, so you can kind of see the middle of the property. It rented for $1,500 a side. He says, I want to rent one side and live in the other for free. That's pretty noble, huh? Wholesale on this deal was a real estate investor would have paid about $265. They were out. They were definitely not going to sell it for $265. Full straight up retail was $325. And he said, I'll pay you your price. Now I have a lot to say about how to do this. But if I got to the point in the deal, the first thing I would do here, Brian, is just write an option agreement to buy it with 2 weeks to figure out the terms. So wholesale was $265, and as a country boy would say, you can stick a fork in them, they're done. They're out. They're not going to do that. Then they wanted $325, and they also wanted 5% interest. What did my guy Kevin want? My guy was buying it. What did he want? Well, he wanted to only pay $5,000 down. He wanted a maximum payment of $1,400 a month. So he wanted to rent one side for $1,500, get $1,400, $100 towards taxes and insurance. He said, I want a 30-year term. So seller knows what they want. Kevin, my guy, knows what he wants. Both of them will dump the wholesale idea and just say, we'll agree on the terms with each other. So this is when I got involved. So he brings it to me and he says, Eddie, I think we're at an impasse. Why do you think that? He said, because we've had about 6 conversations and none of us are budging. And he said, before I throw this deal in the garbage, I wanted to come see if there was a way you thought we could fix this little problem. I'm like, okay. So I have a coaching situation. He brought him a coaching call, a deal lab, I call it. And he said, here's where we are. He said, there's their price, $325. There's $5,000 down. There's the amount financed, there's the interest rate, and there's the payment. So obviously, if I'm paying $325 and I paid $5,000 down, and they're financing $320 at their 5% interest and on a 30-year term. And he said, here's the problem. He said, the payment is $1,717. And I said, okay. And he said, and I will not do it if the payment's over $1,400. So believe me, all the engineers quickly go, oh, Kevin, all you need to do is lower the payment, lower the interest rate. And he about in an animated, escalated voice, he goes, I've tried. Basically, he was smart enough to try that. They were stuck on 5%. And he says, we're in an impasse. He said, because if that payment is not $1,400 or less, I'm out. So I would say of the 5% of real estate investors that know how to start offering creative terms, I would say that most all of them would have missed this deal. So this is what I'm wanting to teach you, how to do this to solve problems beyond just the obvious. The obvious would be to lower the interest rate, right? The obvious would be lower the interest rate, would lower the payment. Hello, everybody knows that. Well, that wasn't going to solve the problem because they weren't going to lower the rate. Okay, Kevin, let's talk about how to walk yourself out of this deal. And take 5%, take a payment of less than $1,400 in a 30-year term. How much could you finance? Finance $260,000. So just financial calculator, $260,000, 5%, 30 years is $1,395. Okay. So then get them to carry a seller second. $60,000, zero interest, zero payments, 15-year term. Now, when that happened, here's what Kevin said. He said, Eddie, how in the heck am I going to convince them to carry financing for me at 0% when they weren't willing to carry financing of me at less than 5%? I said, because you're going to explain to them that they are earning their 5%. Only a sliver of it is not getting the 5%. Only a piece of it. You see, I have to understand how a seller thinks to help you understand how to negotiate with them. This is where 40 years experience in buying seller finance notes comes into thinking. So Kevin called me back and he says, you ain't going to believe it. He said, they never stuttered. He said, but I will admit to you, I lost my nerve and I told him 10 years on the term. I started smiling. I said, and so you realize you gave up 5 years? And he said, I know it. I did. I said, but you won't miss it next time. He said, it was so lucrative for me. He said, I just lost my nerve. I said, well, you won't next time. You see, Brian, here's what happens to people. 60 days ago, one of these guys on this webinar probably would have been like Kevin and given up something, but now they won't because they need to be more creative, and the necessity to work a tighter deal is going to cause you to make a better deal. So I did this little sign, and I basically said, here's how we're going to deal with the virus, right? And number 3 is use creative financing, right? All right, so I'm going to go another direction. This is a high dollar property because it's in California. It's a nice property. It's very nice. It certainly wouldn't cost this much money in Birmingham, but this is a market condition. So here's the story. This lady was an Army recruiter. She'd been an Army recruiter for like 20 years. She bought a property 10 months ago, and then she got promoted and moved to Philadelphia. So it rents for $2,000 to $2,100 a month. She had always dreamed of owning a house, and she got transferred. So she had essentially no money, no equity in the deal, and she was really kind of desperate to sell. She didn't want to rent it. So she was considering, should I do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, right? Should I give the lender the keys? The problem with that is she has a security clearance with the military. If you know anything about people in the military, she was worried about losing not just her VA eligibility, but it could jeopardize her security clearance. You see, losing this property would not just be bad on her credit, it could be really bad on her credit.
Eddie, are you still with us? You froze up.
And so he buys it and he does a sub 2 scenario. So the value of the property, retail was $335 and a wholesaler would have paid about $260. Underlying mortgage, yes. The balance owed $323. Now, how are you going to make a wholesale deal work now? You're not. You're out. So deal or no deal? He owes $323. At the max, it's worth $335. She can't get a realtor to even list it because there's not enough money left to list it. She can't get a wholesaler to make her an offer. She's stuck until she meets my guy. He says, any repairs needed? No, it's slick as a button. House is really nice. The answer is, he said, I'll make it a deal. So the price on the deal was $323. He makes $17,000 at the closing, plus $5,364 a month for the next 29 years on a deal that nobody else could even make a bid on. Not even a realtor could list it. People say, is there something to this creative financing? I don't know. You tell me. So the profit, $1,700 a day, and over time of that on a deal nobody else could close. So here are the terms of the loan that he took over. Now this is a subject to. I have a lot to say about it. Okay, so I know that people, oh yeah, I know about stuff. Let me just suggest you go to Note School, because I have a lot to say about how we structure it, how we position it, all the way down the line. There are ways to do things and there are best ways to do things.
Eddie, I just want to interject on that point right there. There are people out there who are teaching subject to right now, and they're about to get a rude awakening by what's about to happen in our economy. And I've seen some of the stuff some of the ways people are structuring deals, and it blows me away. And I've had numerous conversations with people like you that have been in it for a long time. And I just don't understand how, and they haven't been in it for a long time. So it is scary. Could you take a second and just pause and just kind of explain what that means? What is subject to?
So a conventional mortgage today, VA, FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, most any bank loan today is going to have a clause in the mortgage that's going to say if it sales or transfers, the loan is due on sale. In other words, it has a clause in it that says somebody else can't. But don't assume the mortgage. That's called a subject to the existing debt. And that's where the term sub to came from. Now, there are strategies to do this, and there are best strategies. Brian happens.
Hey Eddie, can you hear me right now? You're cutting out real bad, and I don't know, guys. Can you tell me in the chat?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're cutting out, Eddie. Can you guys tell me in the chat? Is it me or is it Eddie's? Hopefully it's mine. But you keep going. I just heard you say Brian knows, and then I didn't hear anything after that.
Oh, I said you know Jeff Watson.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So Jeff Watson is my attorney that guides us through how we do this. So we're not doing loan was 4%. It was a VA loan. Payment is $1,572 per month and 25 years remaining term on the note. Actually, that's 29 years. I think it's a typo. So that is the money that is owed. He is taking over the property and he is accepting, I have to pay this every month. He's not legally taking on personal liability of the loan, or he's not even legally taking over the obligation of the debt, but he's acknowledging that that mortgage company has to be paid every month or they're going to essentially foreclose. So here's the terms of the sale. 323, he paid nothing down. He took over their existing mortgage of 323. Okay? So now let's resell the property on a wrap note. What is a wrap? Well, if I had an Airbnb property, and hold on a minute, this thing's gonna make me crazy. If I had an Airbnb property and I didn't own it, but I leased it, then I could just stop and require every month that lease payment is made to me. I'm sorry, it's got a little hitch in its get along here. It's trying to advance it when I'm not telling it to do that. So I'm going to go find a subsequent buyer, and that buyer is going to buy it and make a down payment, and I'm going to finance them. And right now, this is a gigantic thing. It's called a penalty box buyer, right? And I'm going to advertise for this penalty box buyer, and here's how I'm going to do it. The smart advertising is going to say private financing for a deserving buyer with large down. Now, you say, Eddie, why are you so confident that a penalty box buyer is going to show up at my doorstep today? Well, let me just say that if you did any Google research, you're going to find that our conventional lending market is in an upheaval. And that upheaval is not going to be over the day that everybody gets released from quarantine and goes back to their job. The whole effect of this virus and how it's affecting conventional lending, historically, it's going to take quite a while for it to recover. And so you take somebody that's got great credit and a good down payment, but they've had some interruption in their life for whatever reason, not that they're bad and not that they have bad credit. Now all of a sudden, they're not going to be eligible for a conventional mortgage. Anybody in the real estate business today certainly is seeing lots of evidence that this is the case. So he's buying it for $323, zero down, and he's taken over the existing mortgage of $323. He sells it for $340. He gets $17,000 down, and he does a wrap note for $323. He owes $323, and he's owed $323. You're saying, how is he making money? We're going to talk about the interest rate differential. So right now, he makes $17,000 at the closing. Now, Brian, are you hearing me better now?
Perfect.
Okay. So, Brian, this is a deal the realtor couldn't list, wholesaler couldn't buy, and there's $17,000 transaction money in the beginning of this deal, money today that nobody else would have made. But here's the better news. That's profit today. He resells it on a wrap note at 6.25 interest. His payment is $1,984, and he does it for 30 years. So he's collecting, or his servicer he's collecting $1,989 a month. Let's just call it $2,000. Close enough? He's going to get that for 30 years, and he owes a little over $1,500 every month. So here's the buy, the terms. There's the underlying mortgage. That's the buy. Here's the sell. 340, 17,000 down. He financed his 323, and there's the terms of that. That is a wrap note. He has an underlying mortgage that he's obligated to pay, and legally he's really obligated to pay it. He can't collect payments on the wrap and not service the underlying mortgage. That's Brian's friend and I, Jeff Watson. We're all on the same page on this, right? This is how you do good seller finance business. So, calculating the net cash flow, he's collecting. He's paying out $1,542, and he's collecting. I got those backwards. I see that. Producing a net income of $447. He's receiving $1,900 a month, and he's paying out $1,542. Net income is about $450 a month, and you do that per year, it's $5,300.
And Eddie, what I love about this versus a rental versus some other strategies that people use is there's no expenses here. Like I don't have taxes and insurance. I don't have maintenance. I don't own the home.
Listen, clearly you could do lease options or rentals. There's other things you can do. I will debate with somebody on a long-term basis that this is a far better seller finance candidate than it is the other two for what you just said. Right? So, and by the way, look at the mortgage payment on this. This customer's not, they're not out of line in the rentable value per month and their mortgage payment every month. We're not, they don't owe 40% more than what the rent is. They owe 102, including taxes and insurance, they're $100 or $200 more than their rent payment would be. And they got home ownership. So every month, what has to happen? Well, the mortgage payment has to go to the servicer. The 1996, the servicer pays the underlying VA loan, and that's got to happen every month. So this is all, I'm super, super, super careful in saying that we're not cowboying anything here. This is done with a professional loan servicer. There's proper discipline set in place so that this customer who's buying the house knows the underlying mortgage is properly being paid and accounted for as it should be. And there is a mountain of disclosures around this, which is, Brian, all the things that you and I think some of these other, let's just call them cowboys out there do it. Right? So, tallying up the money. You remember this deal? This is a deal that wasn't going to make any money. Like it makes $22,000 the first year, and over the life of this loan, $296,000 on a deal that nobody else could even close on. That's why I like this deal.
And Eddie, I don't want to jump ahead, and I don't know if this is the next part of your slide deck or not, but the likelihood that someone's going to stay in that house for 30 years is pretty slim.
Yeah, but it may be, but this is, like I said, this is definitely just, once again, what I like about it is money today and money tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's people, when we sit down at somebody at a class and we say, what is it you want? People realizing the wholesale thing alone is not really what they need. Because the wholesaling thing alone is got transactional money today, but what's the problem? Doesn't have money tomorrow. People that have a bunch of rentals, or at least have been buying a bunch of rentals in the last few years, the truth of the matter is they don't have any cash flow. You had to pay so much for rentals unless you're buying in poor areas. You're having to pay so much for rentals, it doesn't have any cash flow.
Eddie, we got a lot of, can we pause for a second? We've got a lot of questions on that deal. The first question is, whose name is on the deed? How does that work?
there are different levels of advance. Okay. So let me just do you a disclaimer that I don't want to get off into titling tonight. I'm going to offer these guys to come to a 3-day class. I'm going to take this to a much deeper dive, but I'm going to say to you that I can put the deed in a trust, or I could paper it slightly differently where I use a land contract scenario to do this. So there are different ways that I can paper it, and there's no absolute answer. I can tell you like best odds, second best odd, third best odds. So I can tell you that I have addressed the underlying into that tonight. I get the problem, and I believe the way we're handling is the is you would deed it to a trust.
Got it. And let's try to, because there's a bunch of questions that have just come in on this deal. Let's try to do some like quick hitter.
Okay.
Who gets to deduct the interest on the taxes? That's going to be determined by who's the owner.
The payer deducts the interest he pays on the wrap note, and the guy that owns the wrap note pays interest only on the 450 gain.
Tracy asks, would like to see the same deal, but maybe a slightly different twist on it. An example of someone of catching up somebody's late payments, and if they need some of their equity up front. Eddie, can you hear me?
Brian, I'm going to run with these questions because would you see an example of someone caught up behind? But yeah, I mean, Tracy, the obvious answer is yes. These are case studies of scenarios. What I help people do is take the deal that's there and how to solve it and how to fix it depending on what the deal that's there. When we do a 3-day class, we do a lot of different scenarios that struggle. How do I structure a deal of free and clear property? Once again, same thing. The Kevin Moen story tonight was a free and clear deal. Do I have 20 other ways I could show you how to do it? Of course I do. So I like to I show a case study, and it lets us just open up the possibilities of how it exists.
Eddie, and then the one from Reggie. I think we've answered the rest of them. The one from Reggie: does this particular transaction of the deal you just did, does it go through a bank, or do you just have legal paperwork to keep everyone accountable? It goes through obviously a title company.
Goes through a loan servicer. So we have a specialized loan servicer it takes in the wrap payment and makes out the payment on the VA loan. It's a great question.
Couple of other these. I think we answered that one from Don. Who gets to take the interest deduction? We answered that. The 1098 will still be in the name of the original seller on the mortgage.
Well, once again, I don't want to get too marred down in all the details of it, but there are some different ways to handle the paper. Brian, you hear me?
Yeah, you've been cutting out a little bit, and we're getting kind of mixed reviews from the chat. Some people think it's me, some people think it's you. It's probably both of us. But yeah, let's just move on. I think we've kind of beat that horse.
Okay. So my question is this: have you missed a deal? Is there a deal that's closable you've missed, or you've missed getting all the juice out of the lemon in a deal? And by the way, if you've gotten them all correct, congratulations. I would say that I coach some fairly seasoned guys that start realizing there's so many different options that this is why learning more about why this possibility is such a deal. So for me, I've developed a course. The course is called the Nothing Down Deal Architect. This course is designed, when I talk about terms and what terms are and what terms could be negotiated and how could that look. In other words, I've mentioned things tonight and you've asked me things tonight that I would say they're all smart questions. I'm going to create a process where we can get your questions. So I have an excellent home study course that is self-paced, and you can go through and learn some excellent foundational principles to go execute this. Secondly, I want to give you some bonuses. I want to give you some significant bonuses. So I want to give you a course on seller financing. I want to give you a course on the note business, the side of the business I've spent 40 years doing. This is an excellent course, and it's just a home-based course. Now, we're going to talk about some other live training, but this is just a home-based course because there's foundational principles that I'm going to teach you that you're going to go, oh, how would I do that? So that's why I'm making sure you get this course. I'm going to give you a quick starter guide on how to get the property seller to the yes. People say, how do you say the right thing to do it? So I'm going to give you a quick started guide so that you could literally be doing this over the next couple of weeks. Secondly, I want to give you a second get started guide. And that get started guide is 5 steps to dictating the terms to your lender. How do you, the borrower, to get the lender to do things that are like excessively your advantage, just like Kevin Moen did. So the other thing is I'm going to give you a software. This software allows you to play with the numbers. Here's the interest rate I'm paying. Here's the interest rate I'm collecting. Here's the payments I'm getting today. Here's the payments I'm getting tomorrow. What does that look like? And what if I change the numbers? How would that affect it? This is very valuable in becoming a deal architect. Secondly, I'm going to give you a giant bonus. In fact, Brian came to one of these classes back in December. So I'm going to get you to come to a 3-day class. Now, here's the good news. I got 2 classes coming up that are virtual, right? So I have 2 virtual classes coming up. I have just finished my 2nd virtual class, largest class Note School's ever had. So like right now, people are saying, I got to get some of this. So it's the largest class we've ever had. So this is a 3-day intense class, and it is a process that we're putting a student through the process. We're not just standing up in the front of the room doing this. We're engaging with you to understand your story and your situation and to answer the questions just like you've been asking. You've asked great questions tonight, right? But to go finish in an hour and a half, you can't, it's too much of a basis of knowledge. In other words, if I gave you the punchline answer, the punchline wouldn't make sense because we didn't build enough basis around, boom, when I give you the answer, you're like, oh yeah, I could totally see that, totally understand it. That's why we do a 3-day class. So this is what I call seller financing 4.0, right? Brian will pretty much assure you that my approach in this is excessively different than probably anybody you've ever heard. You agree with that, Brian?
There's no question about it, Eddie. None.
It's just not your daddy's old Oldsmobile, right? I want you to sell good properties to good people and get paid for a long time in the future.
Yeah.
I don't want you to sell substandard property to substandard buyers and fool yourself and think you own a bank. There's a lot of difference.
Yes. Especially in our market here in Birmingham, where people think that they can do those kinds of things and get away with those kinds of things. And
it's in a lot of markets. And once again, it's because, people hear war stories, and the guys sometimes telling the war stories don't tell the real truth. Well, if you've been buying notes for 40 years and you've bought 1,000 portfolios of seller finance notes from real estate investors, you actually get to learn the truth. I want to give you a second ticket to this class. Now, this can be for a family member or a business partner. It's not two for the price of one. That's not what it is, but it's a legitimate family member or business partner. Now, let me say this about the live classes. When we're back out doing the live classes, I still want you to come hang out with us at a live class. Right? The live class, and we walk into a class, we've got 12 days worth of training. So it's not going to be some movie. It's the same stuff over and over and over. We have so many case studies and so many possibilities. We just show you different things. So to recap, and I'm not going to go through every piece of this except to say that when I add up the numbers, this is a little over $8,000 worth of materials. So we're going to do a special, right? Because the truth of the matter is, my most successful student is the student that takes action, right? I understand that we're in a market situation where people would be looking for a bargain, right? But don't confuse bargain and value. I want you to get started doing this. I want you to get started doing it, and I want you to do it correctly. I don't want you to learn from somebody with bad habits. I believe that we're going to teach you the right way to do it, and I want to incentivize you to do it. So if you're willing to act now, we're willing to do it for $997. Classes, when they're live, about a third and a third and a third. Now, once again, we've got 2 virtual classes coming up, but when we do live classes, about a third are West Coast, third are in the middle part of the country, and about a third in the eastern part of the country. So once again, there's a 3-day live class. First one's going to be virtual, and then I'm going to allow you to come back to a live physical class whenever we're back out doing it. 2 tickets to the class. The Rich Rewards Home Study course, the Note Architect software, the 2 Get Started guides, and no, it's not going to be $8,000. It's going to be $997. So these are the next 2 dates. We do a good many classes every year. I'm telling you, don't wait, because the truth be told, you need to be applying this in the next 60 days. You don't need to be, if you will apply this correctly in the next 60 days, it will significantly change your profit and the deals you can close. I believe that in all my heart. So we've got one coming up April 30th through May 2nd, another one coming up middle of May. So we've got a couple coming up here pretty quick. And then once again, we're still going to allow you to come out and hang out with us at a live event. By the way, if I have a bad connection tonight, I'm at home. And when I tape these classes, I do it from my office. So I have a higher speed of internet. So I haven't had any audio or visual problems at the office, but obviously it's 8:20 on Friday night here in Texas. So I came home. So I don't know if it's been me or Brian on the audio, but I've not had any issues because obviously I have a super strong internet at my office. Yeah. So it is virtual. Once again, we're going to have live classes as soon as we're back out, but we're just kind of playing it by ear. I will tell you that we've had an amazing response rate from people saying, I want this. And the fact that you can do it virtually just lets me get started. So if that's the deal, then I want to help everybody accomplish that. How are you going to do it? Obviously, you've seen the address, and that's noteschool.com/REI live. And you're going to do uppercase REI and then the L for live. And then lowercase of the rest of spelling out live. You can see how. Brian, what are the questions we got, my friend?
I don't see any questions. I would like to just add maybe a thing or two. I took some notes, and some of the notes I took from stuff that you said earlier, Eddie, that I think is extremely applicable to today's market conditions, where we're headed, at least where most industry experts think we're headed. The guy who can reinvent himself is going to kill it in this market. And I think that that's really important, because there are a lot of people out there that are either going to have to fold up shop because they won't, they refuse to, or maybe they can't, maybe they just don't have the specialized knowledge and they can't do it. I remember when I first got started that this was a thing. This was a real thing that was mainstream. And then it just kind of went away. I didn't see any of the, obviously you were around, Eddie, but I didn't see any of the guys out there really teaching this stuff. And I think that's why we've had our influx of wholesalers don't really know this strategy. So I want to encourage you, if you're a wholesaler and you have not been to this class, I went to it, as Eddie mentioned, in December. I can't even say that it's worth it, because it's so far above and beyond worth it. It's something that's going to really be with you for a long period of time. So the guy or gal who can reinvent themselves, they're going to kill it in this market. Specialized knowledge comes from necessity. We are probably entering some times where there's going to be a heavy necessity to learn some of these specialized skills and put them into practice. And of all the stuff that you mentioned today, Eddie, the case studies, I've not done a wrap yet. And every time I see someone do a case study, you just did one, and every time it's like, it fires me up to do a wrap. Money today, money tomorrow, no expenses in the meantime. And that's what really gets me fired up. I think we're going to see a lot of that.
Well, and listen, I have a heart for people learning to do this the right way. I initially set up the note system for HomeVestors in 1992. I've trained more sophisticated real estate investors how to create seller financing, I believe, than probably anybody. I know there's people out there that say, well, I teach this, but I don't believe they have the track record. And let me just say this, my heart is for you to learn this, for you to make money today and money tomorrow, right? And the way you're going to make money today is because we structure deals that give you some money at down payment time. And the way we structure money tomorrow is because we show you how to buy the right property, find the right buyer, have the right servicer, and all of a sudden now you've built an annuity. Selling a substandard property to a substandard buyer is not an annuity. The case studies I'm showing you tonight become an annuity. There's a lot of difference in the two. And then, like I said, we're going to show you how to go close wholesale deals right now that aren't closing. Yeah. Because now all of a sudden you need creative financing, and you didn't need creative financing before. Those are the reasons that I think, I'm trying to think, like, why would somebody not do this? I think the answer is there's not a good reason. If you want to act on the opportunities in the business, let's spend some time. The 3-day class is going to be excessively good to open up your mind to what's possible. Brian will assure you, I have got about a dozen business models that I haven't even mentioned tonight that I'm going to show you how to do that you're going to go, oh my goodness.
The 3-day class is good, but it really leaves you, it opens up your mind so much to what the possibilities could even be. By the way, guys, let me just interject. I did not put when I was saying copy and paste the link, you do, just as Eddie said, you do need to make sure that the R-E-I and the L are capitalized. I went ahead and put it in the chat, so you can just copy and paste it if you need to, because I just went and checked the website. Everything's up and running. So, Eddie, I can't thank you enough. I don't see any questions in here, and we still got great participation from. So a lot of people are still on. So, any parting words? Anything you want to leave people with, where you see maybe prognosticate over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months with this virus thing?
Well, once again, I don't want to seem insensitive, but I would tell you that there's a difference between being insensitive and being clear about your direction and clear about how you can go profit from a market situation. I want to be clear with you that in my mind, I'm totally clear of how to go profit from a market situation. I don't like the situation that caused it, but I can't fix that. I can only fix the future. That's the way I want you to think.
Yeah. Well said, Eddie. Yeah, we've got to stay prepared for sure. I can't thank you enough for spending Friday evening with us, with Real Estate Investing Live. We appreciate you so much. Appreciate you coming to Birmingham multiple times and getting to know you in DC like I did last year, and getting to know you hopefully in the future as well. So thank you, Eddie. Appreciate you spending some time with us this evening.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And everybody, we appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Tune in next week. We've got some great webinars, great other trainings, live videos. I'm going Facebook Live a lot coming up just because that's the culture we live in right now. In order to communicate and get some great information out there, we're on Zoom a lot. So make sure you're following me on Facebook. Make sure you're getting the emails so you know when our next trainings are and you know when I'm going live again. Love you guys. We're going to see y'all very soon. Take care.
Good night.